What is going on, everyone? So, in today's episode, now that we're outside of the mini series that we just did, I'm just going to jump in and do a couple of Darknest rallies. Now, by do a couple, I actually mean talk about Darknest rallies in general. And we just had a nice little rally that we had to support, so had to do that. And let's see here. Here are the two Darknests that I want to talk about. So the first one is interesting, right? So I killed 2 million troops, a little over 2 million troops. None of them survived. And we had 1.5 million soldiers. And I lost 99,000, almost 100,000 on the nose. And both of these rallies were, let's see. So this one has 2 million troops, and I am just primarily doing, there were a few of these guys down here, but mostly it's just about infantry. And if you watch the battle, the interesting thing about this particular battle, okay, so I've got all of my heroes involved in this battle, none of them hiding back there. But the interesting thing about this particular battle is that I destroyed all of their troops and my morale stayed up, and I forgot to hook up my talent points. So I was really surprised that I still did this much damage, and I took them all down to 0, because in this particular battle I ended up forgetting my talent points. And so in the next one I was like, oh crap, I forgot, but this time I won't forget, and it caused me less damage against many more troops. Last time it was 2.3, this is 3.9. And so in this case, I ended up doing a lot more damage overall, because even if you're just counting what range they had, 3.3 over 2.3, this is a lot more troops, and I took a lot less damage. And I still have these extra guys, that way my leader will come out and battle with my troops. And so if you watch that again, this is something interesting to watch. See, there's Rose Knight right there in the back, and you have all the other troops just coming up, and you have all 5 troops, or all 5 heroes coming up to the front. If you don't include, let's say I didn't have range and cavalry here, then Rose Knight would be sitting way back there doing nothing, but now she's up here and she is causing damage per second and helping with the overall battle. And she's part of, when they all go up together, the heroes all go up and do a massive attack all together at one point during this, which was earlier, and they all are part of a 200% attack, because all of these guys are gold. And she participates in that instead of hanging back. So in any case, there's some stuff that you just want to know about Darknest like that. And so when you're setting up a Darknest rally, and I can't unfortunately show you because I don't want to show you my troop composition quite yet, although I'm going to get brave about that, and I'm going to try and show my troop composition sometime in the future. I can't say near or far, but I want to show you how I actually set up my rallies and set up my troop counts and things of that nature. But what I can do is, obviously with those ones, you're able to see at least some of my troops. You can see that here what we had and what we sent as far as whether it's Royal Guard or Heroic, but you won't see my entire troop count, my whole composition against it, against my castle. And that's something that I do protect. But I also want you to see that I did a lot of scouting, and you can just see these, which some of them I failed. I just don't even bother with those. And some of them have all 3 troop types. And so it's a little bit more like, oh, which one do I send? And so I just kind of always take it easy, to be honest, on these. And I go after the ones who only have 2 troop types. Now, I don't count siege at all, so that's not really a troop type. We're talking infantry, range, and cavalry. And in this case, I go after the cavalry, or in this case, yes, I would go after, I would set up for cavalry, and all of the cavalry would attack the infantry, because you already know that infantry beat cavalry beat, here it is, right here. So infantry beat range, rather. My mind was somewhere else. Infantry beat range, beat cavalry, beat infantry. And then all of those beat siege, which, is not really a troop type. Siege just is meant for the wall, and it's not even needed, as you saw in those battles. I just came up and I crushed that wall like it was nothing, and so siege doesn't even make a difference to me. It's just a matter of time. The time it took for my troops to get to the wall, and then it was basically down, and that was it. That's all it took. So in this type of battle, this is something that I would look for. I would set up for my cavalry position. I would set up my talent points. I would set up my gear. Everything would be lined up to increase my cavalry attack. And the whole idea is that the cavalry would match each other, right? And so my cavalry matches their cavalry, but then my cavalry beats their infantry, right? And that's, their infantry are going to be up front. My cavalry are going to rush up and collide with them immediately, start causing immediate damage, and ultimately win the battle. And so that's one way to look at that one. This one, I would send range. Same thing. My range are going to match their range, and then my range are going to pummel their cavalry, especially with so few troops in total. This would be a nice, easy level 10 win, level 10 essence win. And if you do it the right way, right? So if you send all range in yours, but let's say you're activating your main hero and you're setting up to include cavalry and infantry, that way your main hero comes out and fights with the rest of your guys. Well, in that case, you're okay as long as everybody else sends range. But the moment anybody else sends anything else but range, you won't get the special effect where all of their cavalry are going to rush out from behind the castle wall, and you're able to then, your range will take down the wall, and then they'll focus all of their firepower exclusively on the cavalry rather than worrying about any of the range at all. And so that gives you an opportunity to focus on their weakness instead of what I said earlier, which is if let's say, for example, one of your team members sends infantry into that battle, well, suddenly these cavalry aren't going to come out from behind the wall. Instead, they're going to stay back behind the wall. Your range are still going to take down the wall, but now your range are going to be varied. They're going to be either aiming at cavalry, or they could be aiming at the other range. And so in order to get that firepower directly on the cavalry, and if there were infantry in here, this would also apply. The range would fire down onto your enemy infantry if you guys included somebody in your infantry, or if you included infantry in your range mix. So that's the whole idea. The whole idea is keep only range in your party except for what you need to activate your hero. Don't let any of your coalition, any of your allies that are sending coalition troops, don't let them send anything except for range, and then you'll get the desired effect. And that is that those cavalry will rush outside that wall, and you'll be able to take them down much quicker. Now, I love Darknests, and I'm not going to sit here and go through all these ones, but, this one is obviously, like, for example, all infantry. Here, I'm going to go with all infantry again. And then I'm going to go all cavalry. I think you can probably see how I'm picking it out. All infantry in this case. And that'll be a good one with so many range. And so, in any case, I really enjoyed this because it's good practice for when you're taking down a real castle. And to that point, you don't always want to do it this way. Sometimes you want to go and find nests like this, because this is more realistic to how a castle might be set up, or maybe not that one, but something like that could totally be possible. I mean, anything really is 100% possible, but that's something to get good practice on. You say, okay, what type of troop, or what two type of troops maximum, in my opinion, would I send out to this battle? And then you would think about, okay, well, they have tons of infantry, so obviously I want to send cavalry, but there are also some range, so I'm gonna also send some infantry. That way my infantry can beat out their range. They're all gonna hit up front. The range are gonna focus on their fire on my infantry rather than my cavalry immediately, and then I can get my cavalry to run up and kill all those amazing 1 million infantry, and that's how the battle would ultimately roll out for me. I would think of it that way, but I'll go over more of these in the future, and just something for you to think about, like how you set up your troops, and how you think about maybe going after your Darknest rallies. We'll talk more about formations and identifying formations, because there's always things like, let's see here, there's always things like, that was a good one, that identify, okay, hey, these particular heroes are identifying some kind of particular lineup, and you can usually tell by the troop amount, but that's not always 100% true. And so you'll learn how to read these guys and say, okay, here's some range. I think that guy's range, if I'm not mistaken, maybe he's infantry, looking by the helmet, and he's going to be infantry, and that guy's infantry. So I think they're probably going to have a mainly infantry lineup, like a infantry phalanx, and then you're going to want to go in there with your cavalry phalanx and go in there and destroy them. So we'll go and get into more detail on that kind of stuff in a future video, but that's it for today. Appreciate you guys stopping by, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.